Knowledge dwells in heads replete with thoughts of other men, wisdom in minds attentive to their own. Helena Blavatsky. The more thou dost advance, the more thy feet pitfalls will meet. The path that leadeth on is lighted by one fire, the light of daring burning in the heart. The more one dares, the more he shall obtain. The more he fears, the more that light shall pale. Helena Blavatsky. Matter is spirit at its lowest level. Spirit is matter at its highest level. Helena Blavatsky. The exercise of magical power is the exercise of natural powers, but superior to the ordinary functions of nature. A miracle is not a violation of the laws of nature, except for ignorant people. Magic is but a science, a profound knowledge of the occult forces in nature, and of the laws governing the visible or the invisible world. Spiritualism in the hands of an adept becomes magic, for he has learned in the art of blending together the laws of the universe, without breaking any of them and thereby violating nature. Helena Blavatsky. People keep repeating that the main things are love and compassion. Certainly love and compassion are the main things, but it takes knowledge to make love and compassion fruitful. It takes just a second to say love, but to acquire knowledge for the well-being and blessing of humanity requires an eternity. Helena Blavatsky.
Don't forget to subscribe. Afterwards, the wisest and most spiritual books from the greatest authors await you every day. And now buckle up, sit back and we'll begin.
And now it stands proven that Satan, or the red fiery dragon, the lord of phosphorus, and Lucifer, or light bearer, is in us. It is our mind. Helena Blavatsky. Lucifer represents life, though, progress, civilization, liberty, independence. Lucifer is the logos, the serpent, the savior. Helena Blavatsky. Man is spiritual being, a soul, in other words, in that this soul takes on different bodies from life to life on earth to order at last to arrive at such perfect knowledge, through repeated experience, as to enable one to assume a body fit to be the dwelling place of a Mahatma or perfected soul. Then, they say, that particular soul becomes a spiritual helper to mankind. Helena Blavatsky. Everything in the universe, throughout all its kingdoms, is conscious, i.e., endowed with a consciousness of its own kind and on its own plane of perception. Helena Blavatsky. There is no religion higher than truth. Helena Blavatsky. Knowledge increases in proportion to its use, that is, the more we teach the more we learn. Helena Blavatsky. The world is not prepared yet to understand the philosophy of occult sciences. Let them assure themselves first of all that there are beings in an invisible world, whether spirits of the dead or elementals, and that there are hidden powers in man, which are capable of making a god of him on earth. Helena Blavatsky. So little have the first Christians, who despoiled the Jews of their Bible, understood the first 4 chapters of Genesis and their esoteric meaning, that they never perceived that not only was no sin intended in this disobedience, but that actually the serpent was the Lord God himself, who, as the office, the logos, or the bearer of divine creative wisdom, taught mankind to become creators in their turn. Helena Blavatsky. Be humble, if thou wouldst attain to wisdom. Be humbler still, when wisdom thou hast mastered. Helena Blavatsky. The universe is worked and guided from within outwards. Helena Blavatsky. Who is the great man? He who is strongest in patience. He who patiently endures injury, and maintains a blameless life, he is a man indeed. Helena Blavatsky. Never allow any unnecessary or vain thought to occupy your mind. This is more easily said than done. You cannot make your mind a blank all at once. So in the beginning try to prevent evil or idle thoughts by occupying your mind with the analysis of your own faults, or the contemplation of the perfect ones. Helena Blavatsky. Reflect upon the defects of your character, thoroughly realize their evils and the transient pleasures they give you, and firmly will that you shall try your best not to yield to them the next time. Helena Blavatsky. Help nature and work on with her, and nature will regard thee as one of her creators. She will lay bare before thy gaze the treasures hidden in the depths of her pure virgin bosom. Helena Blavatsky. The essence of theosophy is the perfect harmonizing of the divine with the human in man, the adjustment of his godlike qualities and aspirations, and their sway over the terrestrial or animal passions in him. Kindness, absence of every ill feeling or selfishness, charity, goodwill to all beings, and perfect justice to others as to oneself, are its chief features. He who teaches theosophy preaches the gospel of goodwill, and the converse of this is true also. He who preaches the gospel of goodwill teaches theosophy. Helena Blavatsky. Time is only an illusion produced by the succession of our states of consciousness as we travel through eternal duration, and it does not exist where no consciousness exists in which the illusion can be produced, but lies asleep. Helena Blavatsky. Theosophy blesses the world, theology is its curse. Helena Blavatsky. The Christians were the first to make the existence of Satan a dogma of the Church. What is the use in a pope if there is no devil? Helena Blavatsky. Dogmas are the toys that amuse and can satisfy, but unreasoning children. They are the offspring of human speculation and prejudiced fancy. Helena Blavatsky. We live in an age of prejudice, dissimulation and paradox, wherein, like dry leaves caught in a whirlpool, some of us are tossed helpless, ever struggling between our honest convictions and fear of that cruelest of tyrants, public opinion. Helena Blavatsky. Endurance is the free companion of sorrow, and patience her master. Helena Blavatsky. The mind is the slayer of the real, let the disciples slay the slayer. Helena Blavatsky. Patience leads to power, but eagerness in greed leads to loss. Helena Blavatsky. Civilization may progress, human nature will remain the same throughout all ages. Helena Blavatsky. The chief difficulty which prevents men of science from believing in divine as well as in nature spirits is their materialism. Helena Blavatsky. Public opinion, this invisible, intangible, omnipresent, despotic tyrant, this thousand-headed hydra, the more dangerous for being composed of individual mediocrities. Helena Blavatsky. All things that ever were, that are, or that will be, having their record upon the astral light, or tablet of the unseen universe, the initiated adept, by using the vision of his own spirit, can know all that has been known or can be known. Helena Blavatsky. Strength your soul against the stalk of the ego, make it worth of the name of diamond soul. Helena Blavatsky. A solitary ascetic is a symbol of the most cowardly egotism, a hermit who flees from his brothers instead of helping them to carry the burden of life, to work for others, and to put their shoulders to the wheel of social life, is a coward who hides himself when the battle is on, and goes to sleep drunk on an opiate. Helena Blavatsky. The universe is the periodical manifestation of this unknown absolute essence. Helena Blavatsky. Hast thou attuned thyself to the suffering of humanity, O candidate for light? Helena Blavatsky. But, if the knowledge of the occult powers of nature opens the spiritual sight of man, enlarges his intellectual faculties, and leads him unerringly to a profounder veneration for the Creator, on the other hand ignorance, dogmatic narrow-mindedness, and a childish fear of looking to the bottom of things, invariably leads to fetish worship and superstition. Helena Blavatsky. To act and act wisely when the time for action comes, to wait and wait patiently when it is time for repose, put man in accord with the rising and falling tides of affairs, so that with nature and law at his back, and truth and beneficence as his beacon light, he may accomplish wonders. Ignorance of this law results in periods of unreasoning enthusiasm on the one hand, and depression on the other. Man thus becomes the victim of the tides when he should be their master. Helena Blavatsky. We must prepare and study truth under every aspect, endeavoring to ignore nothing, if we do not wish to fall into the abyss of the unknown when the hour shall strike. Helena Blavatsky. Little do the devout worshippers of the Vatican suspect, when they lift up their eyes in mute adoration upon the head of their God on earth, the Pope, that what they admire, is after all, but the caricatured headdress, the Amazon-like helmet of Pallas Athene, the heathen goddess Minerva. In fact, there is scarcely a rite or ceremony of the Christian Church that does not descend from occultism. Helena Blavatsky. The man might have become a power, but he preferred to remain an ass. Helena Blavatsky. The whole order of nature evinces a progressive march towards a higher life. Helena Blavatsky. Science regards man as an aggregation of atoms temporarily united by a mysterious force called the life principle. To the materialist, the only difference between a living and a dead body is, that in the one case that force is active, in the other latent. When it is extinct or entirely latent, the molecules obey a superior attraction, which draws them asunder and scatters them through space. This dispersion must be death, if it is possible to conceive such a thing as death where the very molecules of the dead body manifest an intense vital energy. Helena Blavatsky. The more thou dost advance, the more thy feet pitfalls will meet. Helena Blavatsky. Prepare, and be forewarned in time. If thou hast tried and failed, O dauntless fighter, yet lose not courage. Fight on, and to the charge return again and yet again. Remember, thou that fightest for man's liberation, each failure is success, and each sincere attempt wins its rewards in time. Helena Blavatsky. Dogma, faith, these are the right and left pillars of every soul-crushing theology. Theosophists have no dogmas, exact no blind faith. Helena Blavatsky. That cruelest of tyrants, public opinion. Helena Blavatsky. Everything lives and perishes through magnetism, one thing affects another one, even at great distances, and its congenitals may be influenced to health and disease by the power of this sympathy, at any time, and notwithstanding the intervening space. Helena Blavatsky. The appearance and disappearance of the universe are pictured as an outbreathing and inbreathing of the great breath, which is eternal, and which, being motion, is one of the three aspects of the absolute, abstract space and duration being the other two. Helena Blavatsky. as no cause remains without its due effect from greatest to least, from a cosmic disturbance down to the movement of your hand, and as like produces like, karma is that unseen and unknown law which adjusts wisely, intelligently, and equitably each effect to its cause, tracing the latter back to its producer. Helena Blavatsky. Everything that is, was, and will be, eternally is, even the countless forms, which are finite and perishable only in their objective, not in their ideal form. Helena Blavatsky. Every one of the numberless religions and religious sects views the deity after its own fashion, and, fathering on the unknown its own speculations, it enforces these purely human outgrowths of overheated imagination on the ignorant masses, and calls them revelation. As the dogmas of every religion and sect often differ radically, they cannot be true. And if untrue, what are they? Helena Blavatsky. This law, whether conscious or unconscious, predestines nothing and no one. It exists from and in eternity, truly, for it is eternity itself, and as such, since no act can be coequal with eternity, it cannot be said to act, for it is action itself. Karma creates nothing, nor does it design. It is man who plans and creates causes, and karmic law adjusts the effects, which adjustment is not an act, but universal harmony, tending ever to resume its original position. Helena Blavatsky. Ridicule is the deadliest weapon of the age. Helena Blavatsky. When science shall have effectually demonstrated to us the origin of matter, and proved the fallacy of the occultists and old philosophers who held, as their descendants now hold, that matter is but one of the correlations of spirit, then will the world of skeptics have a right to reject the old wisdom, or throw the charge of obscenity in the teeth of the old religions. Helena Blavatsky. Spiritualism is but a baby now, an unwelcome stranger, whom public opinion, like an unnatural foster mother, tries to crush out of existence. Helena Blavatsky. The human mind can hardly remain entirely free from bias, and decisive opinions are often formed before a thorough examination of a subject from all its aspects has been made. Helena Blavatsky. The myths, says Horace in his Ars Poetica, have been invented by wise men to strengthen the laws and teach moral truths. While Horace endeavored to make clear the very spirit and essence of the ancient myths, Euhemerus pretended, on the contrary, that myths were the legendary history of kings and heroes, transformed into gods by the admiration of the nations. It is the latter method which was inferentially followed by Christians when they agreed upon the acceptation of Euhemerized patriarchs, and mistook them for men who had really lived. Helena Blavatsky. We see that every external motion, act, gesture, whether voluntary or mechanical, organic or mental, is produced and preceded by internal feeling or emotion, will or volition, and thought or mind. Helena Blavatsky. It is an occult law, moreover, that no man can rise superior to his individual failings without lifting, be it ever so little, the whole body of which he is an integral part. In the same way no one can sin, nor suffer the effects of sin, alone. In reality, there is no such thing as separateness, and the nearest approach to that selfish state which the laws of life permit is in the intent or motive. Helena Blavatsky. There is no higher than the truth. Helena Blavatsky. The occultists, however, know that the traditions of esoteric philosophy must be the right ones, simply because they are the most logical, and reconcile every difficulty. Helena Blavatsky. Becoming is the motive activity of the uncreate deity. Helena Blavatsky. If coming events are said to cast their shadows before, past events cannot fall to leave their impress behind them. Helena Blavatsky. The discoveries of modern science do not disagree with the oldest traditions which claim an incredible antiquity for our race. Helena Blavatsky. Even in our day, science suspects beyond the polar seas, at the very circle of the Arctic Pole, the existence of a sea which never freezes and a continent which is evergreen. Helena Blavatsky. We cut these numerous windings in our destinies daily with our own hands, while we imagine that we are pursuing a track on the royal high road of respectability and duty, and then complain of those ways being so intricate and so dark. We stand bewildered before the mystery of our own making, and the riddles of life that we will not solve, and then accuse the great Sphinx of devouring us. Helena Blavatsky. True science has no belief, says Dr. Fenwick, in Bulwer-Lytton's strange story. True science knows but three states of mind: denial, conviction, and the vast interval between the two, which is not belief, but the suspension of judgment. Such, perhaps, was true science in Dr. Fenwick's days. But the true science of our modern times proceeds otherwise. It either denies point blank, without any preliminary investigation, or sits in the interim, between denial and conviction, and, dictionary in hand, invents new Greco-Latin appellations for non-existing kinds of hysteria. Helena Blavatsky. If thou wouldst have that stream of hard-earned knowledge, of wisdom heaven-born, remain sweet running waters, thou shouldst not leave it to become a stagnant pond. Helena Blavatsky. Theosophy is who theosophy does, not thinks, not studies, not feels but does. Helena Blavatsky. But the first differentiation of its reflection in the manifested world is purely spiritual, and the beings generated in it are not endowed with a consciousness that has any relation to the one we conceive of. Helena Blavatsky. Nothing of that which is conducive to help man, collectively or individually, to live not happily but less unhappily in this world, ought to be indifferent to the theosophist occultist. It is no concern of his whether his help benefits a man in his worldly or spiritual progress. His first duty is to be ever ready to help if he can, without stopping to philosophize. Helena Blavatsky. From architecture down to the zodiac, every science worthy of the name was imported by the Greeks. Helena Blavatsky. The secret doctrine is the common property of the countless millions of men born under various climates, in times with which history refuses to deal, and to which esoteric teachings assign dates incompatible with the theories of geology and anthropology. Helena Blavatsky. It is on the acceptance or rejection of the theory of the unity of all in nature, in its ultimate essence, that mainly rests the belief or unbelief in the existence around us of other conscious beings besides the spirits of the dead. Helena Blavatsky. The possible truths, hazily perceived in the world of abstraction, like those inferred from observation and experiment in the world of matter, are forced upon the profane multitudes, too busy to think for themselves, under the form of divine revelation and scientific authority. But the same question stands open from the days of Socrates and Pilate down to our own age of wholesale negation. Is there such a thing as absolute truth in the hands of any one party or man? Helena Blavatsky. The idea of passing one's whole life in moral idleness, and having one's hardest work and duty done by another, whether God or man, is most revolting to us, as it is most degrading to human dignity. Helena Blavatsky. I speak with absolute certainty only so far as my own personal belief is concerned. Those who have not the same warrant for their belief as I have, would be very credulous and foolish to accept it on blind faith. Nor does the writer believe any more than her correspondent and his friends in any authority, let alone divine revelation. Helena Blavatsky. But, drive out prejudice with a pitchfork, it will ever return. Helena Blavatsky. Donkeys have the courage to bray after the death of a lion, not meant to glorify carnivorous practice. Helena Blavatsky. Is the scraping off of a barnacle the destruction of a ship? Helena Blavatsky. Meditation has been defined as the cessation of active eternal thought. Helena Blavatsky. I have pledged my word to help people on to truth while living, and will keep my word. Let them abuse and revile me. Let some call me a medium, and a spiritualist, and others an impostor. The day will come when posterity will learn to know me better. Helena Blavatsky. Theosophy, on earth, is like the white ray of the spectrum, and each religion only one of the 7 colors. Helena Blavatsky. The wheel of the good law moves swiftly on. It grinds by night and day. The worthless husks it drives from out the golden grain, the refuse from the flour. The hand of fate guides the wheel. The revolutions mark the beatings of the heart of manifestation. Helena Blavatsky. How long shall we spiritualists be turned over like so many scapegoats to the unbelievers, by cheating mediums and speculating prophets? Helena Blavatsky. It is, then, by those shadows of the hoary past and their fantastic silhouettes on the external screen of every religion and philosophy, that we can, by checking them as we go along, and comparing them, trace out finally the body that produced them. Helena Blavatsky. Inaction in a deed of mercy becomes an action in a deadly sin. Helena Blavatsky. Gently to hear, kindly to judge. Shakespeare. Helena Blavatsky. Error runs down an inclined plane, while truth has to laboriously climb its way uphill. Helena Blavatsky. No man can swim unless he enters deep water. Helena Blavatsky. When there were no churches, no creeds or sects, but when every man was a priest unto himself. Helena Blavatsky. Virtue and wisdom are sublime things, but if they create pride and a consciousness of separateness from the rest of humanity, they are only the snakes of self reappearing in a finer form. Helena Blavatsky. Man is a little world, a microcosm inside the great universe. Like a fetus, he is suspended, by all his 3 spirits, in the matrix of the macrocosmos, and while his terrestrial body is in constant sympathy with its parent Earth, his astral soul lives in unison with the sidereal anima mundi. He is in it, as it is in him, for the world-pervading element fills all space, and is space itself, only shoreless and infinite. As to his 3rd spirit, the divine, what is it but an infinitesimal ray, one of the countless radiations proceeding directly from the highest cause, the spiritual light of the world? This is the trinity of organic and inorganic nature, the spiritual and the physical, which are 3 in 1, and of which Proclus says that the first monad is the eternal God, the second, eternity, the third, the paradigm, or pattern of the universe, the three constituting the intelligible triad. Helena Blavatsky. Before the soul can see, the harmony within must be attained, and fleshly eyes be rendered blind to all illusion. Helena Blavatsky. The universe is worked and guided from within outwards. Helena Blavatsky. Whatever plane our consciousness may be acting in, both we and the things belonging to that plane are, for the time being, our only realities. As we rise in the scale of development, we perceive that during the stages through which we have passed we mistook shadows for realities, and the upward progress of the ego is a series of progressive awakenings, each advance bringing with it the idea that now, at last, we have reached reality, but only when we shall have reached the absolute consciousness, and blended our own with it, shall we be free from the delusions produced by Maya, illusion. Helena Blavatsky. Nature gives up her innermost secrets and imparts true wisdom only to him who seeks truth for its own sake and who craves knowledge in order to confer benefits on others, not on his own unimportant personality. Helena Blavatsky. The end of man is an action and not a thought, though it were the noblest. Helena Blavatsky. There is no higher religion than the truth. Helena Blavatsky. Do not be afraid of your difficulties. Do not wish you could be in other circumstances than you are, for when you have made the best of an adversity, it becomes the stepping stone to a splendid opportunity. Helena Blavatsky.
And that's not all. Our experts and regular viewers respond to all comments. Also check if you forgot to subscribe and set your bell to receive notifications about new audiobooks and other useful self-development materials that we release regularly. Join in the discussions, don't forget to give likes and, if possible and inspired, support the development of the channel financially. All useful links will be in the description and the first attached comment. Goodness, love and wisdom to all. And now move on to watch the next part of the video at the links below, or choose something from the playlists of the channel and those you see on the screen.